What's up, everybody? It's Randy. We're back here at Bike Worx, continuing the build on our 1950 Panhead turned chopper. Today what we got going on is we're going to work on the rear sissy bar. What we've decided to do to get a tail light and do a license plate on here instead of running a side tag, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use some cardstock. I'm going to take and make a paper template of the back side of the sissy bar. What we'll end up doing is welding the plate in that once it's all finished, it'll be all chrome. Here's one of the tail light housings I'm using. I'm using a stock tombstone style tail light. We're going to invert it, flip it upside down, and mount it to this plate. That will look. Then we'll be able to hang our license plate down here. It'll be sunk in, so it's not going to stick out and hang off anywhere. It's going to keep the bike pretty slim and streamlined. Everything will bolt through this flat bracket here, and then once it's all finished up, the seats on it, you'll never see the mounting hardware for any of these pieces. So today what we're going to do is try to finish it up and get it ready for chroming. So we're going to go ahead and make the template, cut it out, get it tacked onto here, lay out all of our spots for our pieces, and we'll go ahead and get this thing finished up. So here's the outline of the sissy bar. What I always like to do is mark the inside and the outside. Then I'll come back and cut in between the two. That way it leaves me an area to weld, grind back down, and it leaves a sharp reveal on the outside of the sissy bar. If you left it long, if you didn't measure it right or cut it just right and it had an overhang, it'd throw everything off. So by cutting it back short, you know you're covered up. You know that when you put the seat onto it, you're not going to see that edge. Plus, when we fiberglass it, it'll wrap around this little plate that we make, and you'll never be able to tell that there's a thickness change either. So it's just one of those trick little things, the details that make bikes like this come out super cool. So something I like doing is cutting it a little bit big on all my radius parts, top and bottom. Then I can come back in and shape them and cut them back to the actual dimension. All my straight cuts, I just cut them clean where I want them and straight, so I don't have to deal with cleaning them up at all. But this just creates the ability to make the edge that you want. So here's our steel plate put on. We're going to set it in here, get it clamped onto the sissy bar, and kind of position it where we want it to sit. And we can come back through and spot tack it on and start making our holes for our license plate and for our tail light brake light to go on. For me, sometimes it's more about how it looks than how it measures out. Measurements will get you really, really close, but in case something's a little bit off or a little bit different, I always like to set everything up for how it looks. Because in the end, no one gives a crap how it measured out as long as it looks the way it needs to look. So on something like this, with this reveal, you just kind of set it up for how it looks with that fender so that everything looks perfect and looks straight. So what I've got here is my paper template. It fits the inside of our trim ring. I've left a little cutout in the center so that we can slide the LEDs through it and be able to bolt the LED panel to this piece of trim ring right here. So once we get this on, what I'm looking to do is be able to bolt this to our trim ring, put our trim ring in between here with gaskets, and then the outside screws will screw our lens and our trim ring to this plate. Then on the back side of this plate, we'll weld a couple of bolts, and that's what will actually mount to the sissy bar. So here it is. What we've got is everything's mounted up here solid. I'm gonna go ahead and put a rubber gasket behind it, that way it seals it. But this is how it's gonna go. From the inside, those two bolts that were welded onto the plate will pass through. We'll have lock nuts on the inside. I've drilled a hole for the wiring with a rubber grommet onto it, so it'll pass through this piece of metal right here as well. So now this will be bolted up. When you look at it from side to side, this light's gonna disappear and be flush. I got this bike from a customer of mine he'd come in and done a couple other little things on another bike that he owns. And I've done a lot of work for his kin here in town. So the story behind this bike is it was his father's motorcycle. Back during the 80s, I believe that the father and mother got a divorce. Kind of they went their separate ways. Years later, the kids kind of rekindled a relationship with the dad. After being kind of back together for a while, I believe the bike was left to him in a will. Shortly after that, the father ended up getting killed in a car accident. The bike was tied up for quite a while. The son couldn't get to it, and he had to wait. So after waiting all the years to get the motorcycle, he finally decided that he'd go ahead and pull the trigger as soon as he got the bike. So when he got it, he brought it to me. It was all together, but it was just destroyed. You know, the tank was filled with bad gas. It was rusting from the inside out. The wheels were all rusted. The forks were rusted up. Still had a cool look to it. The seat was disintegrated on it. Just pretty much not usable, barely a roller. So anyway, he commissioned to have me build it with the intentions of building it pretty much just exactly like his dad would have wanted. Within the ideas of a certain look. He wanted to run a wide glide front end, no springer. Had to have a certain color of paint. Other than that, it was pretty just left up to me as to what it needed, what it looked good. I was able to do a lot of custom little touches and one-off things that most people probably wouldn't even notice as a different. You know, with doing the neck and the overbuilds, hiding a lot of this little stuff, the little tricks like the brake here and there. It was pretty neat that he just kind of left it all up to me. Just said, here, go on with it. So anyone who knows me knows I love a good story, and I love motorcycling to its just core, what it used to be, what it represented. I believe that the guy that owned this motorcycle from the beginning was just hardcore, purist motorcyclist at his best. So what we're going to do is do a little memorial to my customer's father. So somewhere either on the paneling work on the tank or up here on the neck, we're going to ghost in the father's name. So it'll get put on the motorcycle so that he can keep it with him forever. Every time he gets on this bike, he can see that and kind of remember, you know, where it came from, you know, remember his father, and kind of just show an homage to him that, you know, this was his, now it's mine. And after speaking with the customer, this bike's never going to leave the family. It's going to be passed down to his son. It's going to stay in the family for generations to come. So we'd kind of like to kind of full circle back to where it started with the father and keep him with the motorcycle for the rest of its life.